Thursday night. They are trying to make up their 2 missed games. So basically, what I kind of figured out yesterday was they have moved up the remainder of their schedule, and then the last 2 weeks of the season will be the 2 games that they missed. So they played Thursday night. They will play again this Tuesday night, and then they will play again on a week from today. So I think they're playing 4 games in the span of 15 days.
That's a lot. And it'll be interesting. We can ask Bennett Swaggart about that because he's one of the teams affected. Obviously, you said it. Hillcrest is one of those teams in Region 1-5A, is that right?
Region 1-5A, yeah.
So, they just elected to play all their games. And obviously, if you want to play all of your games, you've got to fit them in. And it's going to make it challenging.
Yep.
And if that's correct, they'll be playing again on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, wow, things are going to be weird in that region for the next few weeks. And we all know that Region 2-5A decided just to cut the game or cut one game, Alex, to keep the schedule, as close to normal as possible.
Sure.
So many ways to listen to the show this morning and watch the show. 71307 is the way you can text into the show. If you were at a game last night, you want to talk about it, you can do so. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Phone lines are also open as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. We'll get to scores in just a moment from now from last night. We also are live not only on FM radio at 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 FM Greenville, anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. You can also watch the show. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Facebook. And we're live on YouTube at The Fan Upstate. But with that being said, let's start the show off the right way. For those of you who just woke up not long ago, sipping on your morning coffee and want to know what happened last night, well, guess what? Here is your chance to do so. Alex Guest with the scores from last night. And every now and then, Alex, him and his wife, I believe they put these in like 3 a.m. So every now and then there's a game that's off. And if you hear
I apologize if that's the case.
Apologize in advance. If there's a game that's off, texters, let us know and we'll correct it. But Alex Guest scores from last night.
Where you want to start?
Anywhere you want. It's your chance to shine.
Great. Well, Hillcrest, they beat easily on Thursday night, 28-3. Also on Thursday night, Malden gets their second win of the season. Big winners over Greenville, 28-17. TL Hanna Thursday night, 42-20 winners over J.O. Mann. And Greenwood, a 49-27 winner over Woodmont, also on Thursday night. Cole, every home team in Region 1-5A won this week.
Wow.
By the way.
Cool stat.
Spartanburg, a 27-7 winners over Boiling Springs last night. Burns gets a 28-9 win over Eastside. Gaffney holds off Riverside, 28-21, a win there at the Not Real Reservation. Dorman, 58-0 winners over Wade Hampton. Emerald, a 51-12 winner over Southside. Westside knocks off Fountain Inn, 49-18. Wren, a 55-3 winner against Lawrence. Daniel goes to Pickens and gets a 59-7 win over the Blue Flame. Greer holds off Seneca last night, 21-13. Blue Ridge, they win the Moonshine Jug, 41-20 over Travelers Rest. Walhalla, a 49-7 winner over Berea. Belton Honeypath, 48-21 winners over Crescent. Pendleton, 57-7, they defeat West Oak. Christchurch gets a big 45-7 win over Carolina. Powdersville knocks off Palmetto, 39-29. St. Joe's on Thursday night gets a 14-7 win over Southside Christian. Chapman, a big 35-13 winner over Union County last night. Mountain View Prep, they hosted Woodruff in Newberry, 40-38.
Wait, Newberry, like high school? No, college.
I think in Newberry College.
Newberry College.
Yeah. 40-38, Mountain View Prep gets the win over Woodruff in what we believe probably is your region championship in that region. Blacksburg, they go to Bonnie Cone, North Carolina. They are a startup prep program in North Carolina.
Say Bonnie and Clyde?
Bonnie and Clyde, Bonnie Cone, North Carolina, yeah. And Blacksburg, a 58-0 winner over Bonnie Cone. Clinton, 56-16 winners over Landrum. Chesney defeats Liberty 22-16. Abbeville knocks off Whitmire 59-9. And Dixie defeats Ware Shoals 28-14. And that's your 27 games in the area.
27.
27.
27.
Yeah.
I like it. Great job on the scores as always. What was our records, Alex Guest, from last night?
Well,
I didn't think. By the way, I did not think I did well. Last night, as the Burns game was kind of coming to a close, I saw some scores and I was like, it might not be a good week for old Cole Bryson, but did I do okay, Alex?
You did okay. The only thing I have to say is you didn't get your picks to me. You may have already made the picks, but you didn't get your picks to me until late yesterday afternoon.
Well, I was making you,
I've just got to let you know, Cole, 3 of the 5 games you got wrong, by the time you got picks to me yesterday, had already been played.
Well, I should have changed them if I was smart.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I really did make the picks actually really early in the week.
Yeah.
However,
and you normally do.
Yeah.
No, you went. We both went 20-5 last night.
So I got 3 games wrong on Thursday.
You got 3 games wrong on Thursday.
Good
You and I both picked Greenville to beat Malden.
I'm not picking Thursday games.
I'm
not gonna do it.
And yeah, well, I don't blame you.
God, lost 3 games.
Don't pick
in one
Thursday
night.
games after they've already played, Cole. I mean, come on.
I should have looked at the score. I'd have been undefeated. So, anyways, what was my record?
Yeah, 20-5.
And you were
20-5.
How'd that happen?
Well, we had 4 games that we picked differently. And so those games were J.O. Man at TL Hannah.
Okay.
You picked Man, I picked Hannah. Woodmont at Greenwood. You picked Woodmont, I picked Greenwood. And then the Seneca Greer game, you went with Greer, I stuck with Seneca. And Liberty Chesney, you went with Chesney. I went with my boys over at Liberty. I've got a buddy of mine that's a DB's coach over there at Liberty.
Yeah.
So I can't pick against them, So
well, you can.
Well, I can, but he'd get mad at me.
Well, welcome to the club. It happens every week for me.
And then the one other game that we both got wrong was Boiling Springs Spartanburg.
I mean, come on. So you're saying we both picked Boiling Springs in that one?
Both picked Boiling Springs in that one.
Okay.
And then the games that I got wrong were we both got Woodruff Mountain View wrong, and I got the Greenville Malden game wrong as well.
Well, let's start there. Let's start Boiling Springs Spartanburg.
Okay.
Because you and I both got that game wrong. I was dead wrong not only on who I thought would win the game, Alex, but that game being close. I believed that going into that game last night, that game would be close. I really did. I thought Boiling Springs Spartanburg had a chance to come down to the last possession. I knew Spartanburg's defense was really good. I guess I underestimated them a little bit. I mean, we talked to Mark Hodge last week on the program, and, man, I'll tell you this. When I saw the score at one time, they were up, 27-0?
Yeah.
And, boy, was I shocked. I did not see that coming whatsoever. Boiling Springs, from what I was told last night, Alex, it seemed as if Clemson, I'm reading a text that says Clemson. And I say Clemson. It seemed as if, from what I was told last night, Spartanburg lived in the backfield of Boiling Springs. And I mean lived in the backfield. It from the people that I talked to that were at the game, it seemed as if Spartanburg was able to get a lot of pressure on Boiling Springs, especially on that offensive line, especially on Lincoln Husky. And Spartanburg 27-7. And I know that I think Spartanburg, I was told in the second half, only took 10 snaps.
Wow.
So Boiling Springs controlled time of possession in the second half, but they only scored 1 touchdown. Spartanburg jumping out to that lead without Rice, without one of their best players on the season, Alex. I find it very, very impressive what Spartanburg did last night. When you talk big picture and you talk about this region, Spartanburg, now all of a sudden they're sitting in a very good spot. Boiling Springs, 1-2 now in the region, 2 losses to Spartanburg and Gaffney. So I believe I guess we overestimated Boiling Springs a little bit and thought that they were going to be a little bit better than they have been in region play. And non-region play, they were world beaters, right? They couldn't be stopped in non-region play, Alex. But since region play has been here, the 2 games against Gaffney and against Spartanburg. Obviously, Bowling Springs has dropped both of those games, so it's interesting. I know they've been they're battling with some injuries now, and Spartanburg last night showed that their defense is absolutely legit. I mean, Alex, this was a Bowling Springs team that the first few weeks of the season they were lighting up the scoreboard. I mean, I saw them against Chapman, and they could not be stopped. So, for a Spartanburg defense to hold Boiling Springs to 7 points, that shows that Spartanburg defense we all knew it was very good, but it might just be legit.
Yeah, for sure, Cole. And that game last night made me sound like an idiot on our fan or on our Scramble preview last night during the Burns game, because I was sitting there talking about how I really thought that Boiling Springs was the more physical and, really the more determined team to win that game and to make a deep playoff run. And, I mean, who knows? So we're still 3 weeks away from the playoffs. So
yeah, still a lot of football.
There's still a lot of football left. And Boiling Springs may very well take that loss last night and say, you know what, we're not going to lose again this season and just make a run for it. But, I completely agree, Cole. I mean, Spartanburg really proved me wrong last night.
I showed their muscles, man.
And I think they proved a lot of people wrong last night. And so that was just a very surprising score to see, especially like you mentioned, when it was 27-0 at one point. That game very well could have ended up being probably like 49-0.
They flexed their muscles last night, man. They really did. I mean, offensively, they were good. And, they had a couple of big plays last night that were able to aid that offense, and their defense was lights out. I mean, holding Bowling Springs to 1 touchdown is very impressive. So now all of a sudden, Spartanburg sits in a very interesting spot, Alex. The next few games, though, are interesting in that region because, as we just talked about a few minutes ago, 1 game was cut from that region. Spartanburg and Bowling Springs the next few weeks. I don't know if you have the schedule pulled up in front of you.
Yeah, so Spartanburg has Burns next week.
That's right.
And then they are at Riverside at Gaffney to end of the season.
So Burns, Riverside, Gaffney.
Yep.
Those are the 3 games that remain for Spartanburg.
Yep. And Boiling Springs has Riverside, Burns, Eastside.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. Boiling Springs coming off the loss to Spartanburg last night, it's not like they have, in no disrespect to Eastside or Wade Hampton, it's not like they have Eastside or Wade Hampton this week. They have Riverside.
Yeah.
And you saw last night that Riverside's a good football team. How good's that Skinner kid at receiver? I mean,
oh my gosh.
Did he have every touchdown for Riverside?
Yeah, I believe so.
3 touchdowns?
I'd have to go back and no, he had 2 touchdowns because they had a pick 6.
So he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So they scored 21. Okay, we'll get into that game now. Gaffney, Riverside. Final score was 28-21, right?
Correct.
Gaffney was not throwing the ball through the air like you would expect at all last night. In fact, I believe you mentioned to me before the show, was it 8 total yards passing?
Yeah, Gaffney had 7 net yards. Let's see. Kendarius Bailey had a reception for 8 yards, and then Gaffney had a minus or a -1 yard reception. So 7.
So talk about that
yards.
game, Alex. 28-21. Gaffney comes out on top. You were there. Obviously, I was at Burns Eastside, as you heard that call right here on the Fan Upstate. But a little bit closer than I expected. Obviously, I picked Gaffney. You picked Gaffney, but did not expect that game to be as close as it was. What happened?
Yeah, absolutely did not expect that game to be as close as it was. And, 3 minutes into the game, Riverside's quarterback throws an interception. Viante Robs for Gaffney intercepts it at his own 25 and takes it back, tiptoes the sideline all the way back for a touchdown. So Gaffney looks pretty good at the start of that game with, like I said, just 3 minutes into the game, they're up 7-0. And then really after that, it kind of looked like Gaffney just went flat a little bit. So Skinner had a carry of 2 yards for a touchdown to tie it up at 7 in the first. Andrew Roop got a 1 yard carry out of the heavy package for Gaffney, as we've seen time and time again this year. And so that was in the second quarter, about midway through the second quarter. End of the second quarter, there was a little bit of controversy I still didn't get a full understanding or a full ruling on it, but basically what I understood is Riverside had 4th down. There was a penalty, and the way that Dan Jones, Gaffney head coach, explained it at during the halftime interview was that either way that penalty went, Boiling Springs would have had a Riverside would have had a first down.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of folks on the Gaffney sideline that thought that Riverside got a 5th down there. And again, it was a little bit confusing, not really sure what went on there, but Riverside did end up with the ball 1st and goal from the 4-yard or from the 1st and goal from the 13-yard line. So not really sure how that works, but 1st and goal from the 13-yard line.
Never heard that.
And then had a pass to Skinner for 13 yards as time expired to tie it at 14. And then second half, Javon Gilmore throws an interception. It's returned for a touchdown. So Riverside takes their first and only lead of the game. They're up 21-14. And then from there, Gaffney really kind of stepped it up a little bit late in the second half. Trason Smith had a great 31-yard carry for a touchdown. And then Jamarcus Smith from his kind of wildcat formation that Jamarcus Smith has as a quarterback, ran it for 54 yards.
54 yards.
And let me tell you, Jamarcus Smith, he looked like he was running about 30 miles an hour on that run. And I don't know.
Well, he's athletic, man.
He is, but
you call that the Jamarcus Smith package. I call it the ICWWIN package. I can do whatever is needed package.
Yeah.
That's, basically what Jamarcus Smith is, right? True Swiss Army knife. And obviously he's not at quarterback, Alex, not the passing threat that a lot of other quarterbacks are, but it really doesn't matter when he can make the plays that he can. That was the 5th win? Is only the 4th meeting last night between Gaffney and Riverside?
That's correct, yeah.
So that was the 5th win for Gaffney over Riverside, and the closest of all of the other 4 previous meetings, the closest that game has ever been. And I also believe it was the first time Gaffney against Riverside has not scored 30 points in those other 4 meetings as well.
Yes.
So a little bit closer than we expected. A little bit closer than we expected between Gaffney and Riverside last night. So a lot of good games. We've talked about that. We'll get into Burns East Side. Burns was very, very sloppy last night, very undisciplined, a lot of penalties. So we'll get into that game as well as a ton of other games that happen in the upstate. If you were at a game, you want to chime in, you can do so. Text line, phone lines are also open. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Phone lines, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. We will be joined by Bennett Swaggart, the head football coach of Hillcrest, at 8:40. At 9:20 in hour number 2, we'll talk to Brett Chappell, the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles. All of that and more coming up. He's Alex Guest. I'm Cole Bryson. Look, there's so many ways to get in touch with the show. If you haven't done so already, we would love to hear from you, but we'll continue the conversation next. Hour number one of the Saturday morning scramble rolls on right here on the Fan Upstate. I'm Cole Bryson. He is Alex Guest. High school football coverage you will not get anywhere else right here, 8 to 10 a.m. on Saturdays. Want to say thanks to Ingalls Markets for sponsoring the Saturday morning scramble. Want to say thanks to Founders Federal Credit Union for sponsoring the Saturday morning scramble. Also want to say thanks to Lumos, a fairly new sponsor of the Saturday morning scramble. Big shout out and a big thanks to Lumos Internet built for the future. So many ways to get in touch with us. 71307 is the text line. Start your text with the word fan. Again, 71307. You can also watch the show. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube at the Fan Upstate, at the Cole Bryson on Twitter. Alex, week 8 games last night. Week 8 in the books. You went over the scores in the very first segment, but we always ask this question, and this question, is open to our listeners as well. 71307. Of the games last night, which one jumped out to you the most? Which one surprised you the most? And I say last night's games, but also Thursday can be included on that list because Thursday night's the game that I'm going to choose. T.L. Hanna and J.L. Mann.
I was afraid you were going to choose that one.
Well,
because that one's mine.
We both got that one wrong.
Yeah.
We both picked J.L. Mann.
I picked Hanna.
You picked Hanna?
I picked Hanna. But I thought that game would be closer.
You picked Hanna?
I picked Hanna.
I want to see the receipts that you picked. That's unbelievable. I did not. You probably picked Hanna because what? I picked Mann?
No, because you didn't get your picks to me until after I had already made my picks.
So this game surprised me. 42-20.
Yeah.
I mean, this game not even close on Thursday night. Did J.L. Mann did they forget that, like...
Did you get to watch any of this?
No.
It was the game of the week.
No.
So I watched some of it, not a lot. I tuned in, and it was like third quarter and already over by then. But J.L. Mann did not look like the J.L. Mann that I've seen previously this season. I will say that.
I would say this game, obviously the one that surprised me, Hanna wins over J.L. Mann 42-20. And Alex, I know you know that T.L. Hanna and the way that they run their offense and the option, they get better every week because they're running it during the game, during practice. They're continuing to get better and better and better. And that's what option teams do. They get better every single week. I just don't know if J.L. Mann forgot they were running an option. I say that tongue-in-cheek, right? I say that half kidding. But, I mean, this game wasn't even close, and this one surprises me more than anything, but a huge, huge win. How impressive is that now for T.L. Hanna?
Oh, that's very impressive. I mean, you look at T.L. Hanna, and they're 2-1 in the region. Their one loss was their first region game at Greenwood that they lost by 4. So the rest of their schedule is Easley, Greenville, Malden, and Hillcrest. So you look, I mean, nothing against Easley, Greenville, and Malden, but you look at those 3 teams and you think T.L. Hanna's got pretty easy wins there.
Yeah.
So their next big test is going to be Hillcrest on November 8th. And that, at this point, could be a region championship game.
You know what's interesting? J.L. Mann, I thought, was the better team in 2024. Yeah. Obviously, I was wrong because Hanna won big. Alex, that series has been all Hanna.
Oh, yeah.
Hanna now leads 14-1 all time over J.L. Mann. The only ever win for J.L. Mann over T.L. Hanna ever, 1971. That's a long time ago. That's the last time J.L. Mann beat T.L. Hanna. Think about that. I mean, that is a long time.
Wow.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 straight wins, Alex, now for T.L. Hanna over J.L. Mann. 13 straight wins in that rivalry, or not rivalry, in that series. And that has been that's been domination, absolute domination. Did not expect that. However, one thing you and I do know, Jason Tone's always going to have a well-coached team. They're always going to get better, like I said. It doesn't surprise me like that they're getting better and they're winning, but it does surprise me that they beat J.L. Mann, who you've seen this year. J.L. Mann, a very good team. And 42-20 win It shocked me. It absolutely shocked me. I did not expect that at all. And you mentioned it during the break. Also, another surprise for me, Alex, 28-17, Malden over Greenville. I also got that game wrong. Is that right?
Yeah, we both got that game wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what, Malden's on a heater.
Yeah.
Malden's on a heater.
They're on a streak. They are
was 2 wins?
2 wins. They won last week. Let me find that score. I know they won last week.
They did. Yeah, I do remember.
They won last week 36-28 over Easley, and then they won Thursday 28-17 over Greenville. So they are on a streak right now. I think I think actually they never mind. Greenwood. I was going to say I think they hold the longest win streak in that region, but Greenwood does at this point.
So impressive win for Malden over Greenville. We do know Greenville in 2024, Alex, very young. I've watched them one time this season when they played Dorman. I went back and watched that game on the My 40 replay. First-year head coach Jay Beauchamp, who, it's going through some growing pains right now at Greenville. They don't have the talent that Greenville's had in the years past with Greg Porter, and it's showing. They're struggling.
Yeah, and Greenville, they're 1-5 right now. Their lone win was their region opener against Woodmont, 35-31. Again, you mentioned it. The game against Dorman, they lost by 7, 42-35. Then had a couple of bad games, a couple of bad losses against Riverside and Gaffney, 42-26 and 54-14 respectively. But then really since that Woodmont win, they haven't looked bad.
Yeah.
They're just not able to finish games. It's 34-20 against Greenwood last week, and then 28-17 against Malden, that, like we mentioned, Thursday.
Maybe if Jay Beauchamp was a little more media friendly and answered text messages and phone calls, they'd win more games. I'm just saying. Spartanburg 27-7 over Boiling Springs last night. We talked about that game. A very, very big win for Mark Hodge and the Spartanburg Vikings. Burns 28-9 over Eastside. That final score, did that surprise you at all, Alex?
I don't really think it did.
And
you and I were texting back and forth during that game, what surprised me was when you texted me in the second quarter and said that it was 7-0. And so I think that surprised me because I thought that after the way Burns played last week against Gaffney, they'd come out and really just kind of put pedal to the metal against Eastside, and
they did not.
They did not, but they did get a 3-score. What is that? A 3-score win. So it
was probably the most undisciplined, sloppy, penalty happy team that I've seen for Burns ever last night.
Wow.
I mean, more penalties than they should have had. It was bad. Very, very bad. Could not get off the field in the first quarter. How about this? 2 offensive touchdowns for Burns last night over Eastside. 2.
Okay.
So you take away the 2.
That's better than last week.
It is. However, you take away the 2 special teams touchdowns, and you're talking about a 14-9 score against Eastside.
Yeah.
So, last night, Reggie Shaw's team and Burns they thrive in special teams. Got 2 touchdowns from special teams. And look, you've got to win in all 3 phases of the game, right? And they did that. So you give them credit. You give them credit for the special teams plays because they were absolutely fantastic. Chew Harris last night, man, on one of the most electric kickoff returns. Chew Harris, number 9 for Burns, had a fantastic kickoff return for a touchdown. So, look, they got the win. It wasn't pretty. But Burns now gets their third region win of the season. Wade Hampton, Dorman, and now Eastside. So Burns the next few weeks, actually the next 2 weeks, Burns only has 2 games left this season at Spartanburg, at Boiling Springs. Those are the only 2 games left. Now, Eastside, Alex, I don't know if you have their schedule pulled up, but with the game they lost, or 2 games, and now they're going to – the Region 2 5A cutting one of the games. What's Eastside's next few weeks look like?
Yeah, so they are 0-3 in the region with losses to Spartanburg, Riverside, and Burns. They have Wade Hampton, Dorman, Boiling Springs the next 3 weeks.
Eastside has Wade Hampton, Dorman,
Boiling Springs.
Okay. I'll tell you this, and we'll get to it later in the second hour. I think Eastside beats Wade Hampton. Eastside, I've seen both. I've seen Eastside and Wade Hampton, and Eastside's a good team. Relatively speaking, the quarterback is so athletic, man.
Yeah.
He's very athletic, and I think they'll beat Wade Hampton. I think they really will. And again, they're still 3-3, so not a terrible year for Eastside by any stretch of the imagination. But 28-9 last night, final score, Burns over Eastside. Dorman, Wade Hampton, I don't think anyone was surprised, Alex, by the score of that one, 58-0. Wade Hampton struggling. We all know that. First-year head coach Reuben Wright, still a lot of work to be done. Wade Hampton struggled for a very long time. However, Dorman might have needed that game just to kind of get some confidence, because this is a Dorman team that really, after last week's Spartanburg loss, Alex, didn't have a lot of confidence. They probably needed that one in a big way last night.
Yeah, and I mean, that win last night puts them at 2-2 in the region now. Dorman and Burns both got that game in before the Hurricane Helene came through.
That's right.
So they right now at this point have the extra region game, but Dorman 2-2 in the region. They've had a couple of tough losses. Obviously, we know what they did against Grayson, Georgia. They laid an egg, but I mean, that's a tough team to try to go play. But then, a 14-3 loss to Burns and 23-7 loss to Spartanburg, like you mentioned. So I agree, Cole. I mean, you lose those two games. You've got realistically, Dorman only had a week off because they did get that game in against Burns before the Hurricane. But you have that week off, and you're just sitting there. And for the last 3 weeks, you haven't won a game. I think you really needed that win to, really build some confidence going and playing Gaffney this week.
Dorman now leads the all-time series, Alex, against Wade Hampton, 20-7-1. How about that? A tie all the way back in 1967. So Dorman leads the series now with Wade Hampton 20-7-1. 20 wins, 7 losses, 1 tie. And Dorman has beaten Wade Hampton now 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times in a row. So a very impressive night. We're going to take a break. We will be joined by Bennett Swaggart, the head football coach of the Hillcrest Rams, on the other side. Alex, they had a big win, not last night, but Thursday night. We'll talk to Coach Swaggart of Hillcrest next. Hour number one rolls on right here on the Saturday morning scramble, brought to you by Ingles Markets, Founders Federal Credit Union, and Lumos Internet. Lumos, built for the future. Want to go to the phones where we are joined by the 5-1. Actually, we're not, Alex. I lost him. I will try to get Coach back on. Did you hang up on him? Did I do that?
I don't know how to work the phone, man.
I guess I will have to re-effort Bennett Swaggart, but
he has kids. Maybe one of the kids stole his phone and hung up on us.
Wouldn't that be a shame? Well, let's effort Bennett Swaggart one more time. I was just talking to him, so let me see if I can get him back on. But
behind the scenes here,
I was going to say they're 5-1, right?
Yeah, they are 5-1. Yeah, they've got wins over Lawrence, Clover, Greer, Malden, and then Easley on Thursday night is their wins this week or this season, and their loss is to J.O. Mann last week, 31-0. So.
Only one loss on the season, and we do have Coach Bennett Swaggart joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. We've got him back on with us. Coach, a night off on Friday, but congratulations on the big win Thursday night, 28-3 over Easley. A very big win for you and your team. Congratulations, Coach.
Man, thank you. At this point, man, any win's a big win. You talking about region play and all that, this hurricane stuff. 3 games in 9 days. Ooh, we'll take them all.
Well, I want to go to that. I'm glad you brought that up because each region decided to do something different. I know Region 1 5A did something different than Region 2 5A. For those out there that do not know, can you go into the decision that was made by your region in terms of playing 3 games in 15 days?
Yeah, no, and I want to speak for everybody. It was a collective decision amongst athletic directors. Principals got involved. Suits got involved. People way higher up than me. But I can tell you, maybe in Greenville County, football is a big contributing factor for all other athletic programs.
Yeah.
And it was important to get 10 in. And for cavemen like me, I wasn't smart enough to figure out these 9-game soccer models, and kind of want to play all of them. So now we kind of get what we asked for. So obviously the injury bug hit us right after J.O. Mann. Hurricane tore through us. And we were out there with JV guys, choir boys. We had a left tackle literally sing the national anthem in his game uniform, and then go out there and play a football game.
Wow.
So any way we can get a win right now, we'll take it. And, I can tell you this. Coach Holt said, don't tell people your problems. Like 90% of them are glad you got them, and 10% don't care. So we'll take every win we can get.
Coach, what did you guys see that enabled you guys to have a good night on Thursday to get that 28-3 win over Easley?
Man, we really just played really good defense. That's kind of been our brand for 2 years now. Everybody talks about the offense. Our defense is quietly stood up. So going back to the 2 games we played last week, I should say. At least that's how I kind of view it. Going man, and then. Obviously on a short turnaround with Easley, our defense has been there. So we were starting slow offensively. Like I said, we had some offensive line problems. We kind of stumbled through that way, but defense was there to have our backs and help us find a way to win.
Coach, the remaining schedule, now that you guys are fitting these games in, what does it look like for Hillcrest and the rest of these teams the rest of the season in terms of when you're going to play your next game?
All right, so we got a quick turnaround for us personally, and for everybody else in the region. For us personally, we'll be at Serene Saturday night, 7:30, and then we're going to try to turn around, Saturday night or Tuesday night at 7:30, and then turn around Saturday night at 7:30, and be home for Woodmont. So teams in our region are going to go Tuesday and then Saturday, and so really, when you look at it from Thursday's standpoint, that was the 3 games in 9 days. But if you take a step back and look at the previous Saturday, you're talking about, probably 4 games in 14 days.
No doubt. So Hillcrest in action, a little Tuesday night football for those here in the upstate. Coach, offensively, you brought back Caleb Sutton as your quarterback. Talk about what he's been able to do for your team, including the win on Thursday night against Easley.
Man, well, he really drove the bus for us early. Spark plug kind of got us going in the run game and made a really, really big play in the pass game. But offensively, Caleb, has dealt with some things, some injuries and some other things. So he hadn't been out there quite as much. We've kind of relied on the sophomore, Jackson Free. He's done a really, really good job for us. I'm not a big stat guy. He's thrown a lot more touchdowns than interceptions. He's driven the bus. He's learning how to drive the bus that way. And then Coach Johnson with our new offense. Look, I've completely turned it over. That may be hard for some guys to comprehend that knowing I've been an offensive guy for so long. He's done such a good job and demonstrated the fact that he can probably be a little bit more aggressive than I was. I kind of alluded to earlier, scared money don't make money, and he's probably a little bit more aggressive that way. So Jay Free and Caleb are both kind of learning. This is back to year one with the offense install, right? So they're learning this thing as we go, and I think it's going to be a good move for this program in the years to come.
Coach, when you talk about offensive play calling and preparation and game plans that you're putting in, how does this post-Hurricane schedule of playing these games, again, you guys playing on Tuesday and then again on Saturday, how does this edited schedule, if you will, impact the preparation throughout the week?
Man, I'm telling you, I'm calling all these really good high school football coaches that have been head coaches for some time and know what they're doing, because I don't know what I'm doing. They had experiences in COVID, right?
Yeah.
I've actually had the experience of Hurricane. How about this? We usually played on Saturday in college football, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Shoot, we ended up playing at Williams-Brice on a Tuesday night when the Hurricane came through. We were out there with Spencer Rattler,
Yeah.
I'm sure they had to get that win. Let me speak freely. I'm sorry. I don't know no other way to probably, have a chance to get bowl eligible, right? So we found a way to get in on a Tuesday. That is not unusual. What unusual is the amount of games and the turnaround. That's the unusual part. And so at least where we're going to try to be safe that way is in practice. We haven't gone pads since last Saturday. So any kind of mistake that way, we're gonna kind of yield towards player safety and go back to day one base install. That's kind of how we're looking at it. And then you've seen us roll more people than we normally would, trying to take some of those reps in smaller amounts, smaller doses, in smaller portions, I should say. So not trying to overload, the starting running back with 40 carries, right? So now you're definitely seeing 3 or 4 running back rotations and trying to take the hits and prepare, but at the same time, protect our players that way.
Bennett Swigert, the head football coach of the Hillcrest Rams, joining us. Coach, my last question for you. You talked about Jackson Free, quarterback, getting a lot more playing time. What kind of quarterback is he? I mean, I know you, tell me if I'm wrong here, you were more of a dual threat guy, right? Back in the early 2000s. Is he that way as well?
Man, that's what I at least try to tell people. I don't know how much dual threat I really was, right? I was pretty skilled with the basketball in my hand, so I started at point guard before I started quarterback. I could do everything but shoot. I wasn't really a great 40 guy. I could move just well enough. And this Free kid, he might kind of look like me that way, but way better athlete. I can tell you that. So true dual threat guy, man. This kid started in spots for the varsity baseball team as a freshman. He ain't tall enough to dunk quite yet. He's still a sophomore. He don't probably have another inch or two. But he can get up there and grab the rim. Very explosive athlete. But more importantly, wants to be a really good quarterback. Intangible wise, man, even when he got his first start, Clover Week, second game of the year, all the boys got behind him. And you can't fake that. Yeah. You can only generate that kind of support by coming to work every single day in the summer, every single day in the spring, being humble, even when you've had success, handling failure, handling success appropriately. That's why we're really excited about our future because we got right now, but we feel pretty good about next too.
Coach, we appreciate your time as always. Best of luck on Tuesday, and we'll talk to you soon, Coach.
Man, thank you, guys.
Absolutely. That's Bennett Swigert, the head football coach of the Hillcrest Rams. Alex, that's challenging to say the least, having to play on Friday, then Thursday, then Tuesday, then Saturday. no consistency for that team in terms of their scheduling. That's got to be tough.
Well, make it even tougher. Instead of playing on that Friday, they played on Saturday because that region, I believe that region wanted to give their guys a little bit more time coming out of the hurricane to
Saturday,
prep. So
Thursday.
Saturday, Thursday, Tuesday, Saturday.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
That's
Man, that's crazy.
To be able to get those kids. I mean, you're talking about high schoolers, to be able to get those kids up and going and saying, hey, we're playing 4 games in 2 weeks.
And routine and consistency matters.
Yeah.
And when you don't have any routine, you don't have any consistency. Hillcrest still, 5-1? Is that
5-1, yeah.
A very good season so far for Hillcrest. And it looks like they're going to get every game in, which, I did think that was an interesting point from Coach Swaggart of, hey, look, in Greenville County, we rely on football and we need all 10 games, and they decided on that. That region did, Region 1 5A. So Tuesday night football, Alex, for Region 1 5A this Tuesday, like a few days from now.
Yeah, a couple days from now. I might go to a game.
High school football on
what
a
else
Tuesday.
do I have to do on a Tuesday night?
Did not expect to hear that, but again, you do what you can, right? You do what you can. We'll continue the conversation. Hour number 2, we'll have scores from last night. If you just tuned in, you can chime in 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We'll also be joined by Brett Chappell, the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles at 9:20. A lot more coming your way right here on the Fan Upstate.
Powered by Founders Federal Credit Union, official credit union of the Saturday Morning Scramble, and your local Ingles Market.
It's the Saturday Morning Scramble on the Fan Upstate.
High school football coverage for one more hour from games that happened last night as well as Thursday night. A lot of games to get to. We've talked about a lot of games in hour number one, but still several games to go. Appreciate you being with us. I'm Cole Bryson. He's Alex Guest. You can follow us on Twitter at Fan Scramble. That's where you can watch the show live at the Cole Bryson, at A Guest 519. So many ways to get involved with the show. 136 of you watching right now on the stream. You can also listen 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, and anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. So many ways to listen to the Saturday Morning Scramble and the Fan Upstate. I want to say thanks to Bennett Swaggart. Alex, fantastic interview. Bennett Swaggart of Hillcrest for joining us in hour number one. We will talk a little Chesney football coming up at 9:20 with Brett Chappell, the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles. But let's go to the scores as we do once in every hour. Scores from last night with Alex Guest.
Yeah, we'll start with our 1A friends.
There you go.
And work our way to the big guys. Dixie, a 28-14 winner over Ware Shoals. Abbeville, 59-9, knocking off Whitmire. Chesney, we'll talk with their head coach here in just a little bit. 22-16 winners over Liberty.
Big win.
Big win. Clinton, 56-16 winners at Landrum. Blacksburg.
Hey, let's pause on that
let's
Clinton
pause.
Landrum game.
Okay.
You know, Landrum was one loss team going into
Yeah.
that game, and Clinton, by the way, not to get on a tangent, Clinton's a very good team.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a horrible loss for Landrum because a lot of people are going to lose to Clinton, but no surprise there. I do think Landrum, was victim of their schedule in the first few weeks, kind of not playing the best competition.
Yeah, I think so. And you look at that, they're like you mentioned, their one loss to Walhalla to open the season. Then they had Berea, Ware Shoals, Polk County out of North Carolina, West Oak, and then Blacksburg last week. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think they were a victim of their own schedule.
All right. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay.
Where were you at?
Blacksburg. They
Big one.
go into North Carolina and play Bonnie Cone.
Clyde.
If you've never heard of Bonnie Cone, it's okay. We haven't either.
Good
But
point.
58-0, Blacksburg, a winner over Bonnie Cone out of North Carolina. Mountain View Prep and Woodruff. Big game being played down at Newberry.
Yeah, we'll get to that one a little bit later.
40-38, Mountain View Prep, a winner over Woodruff. Chapman, 35-13, winners at Union County. St. Joseph's, a 14-7 winner at Southside Christian. That game was played on Thursday night. Powdersville, 39-29, winners over Palmetto. Christchurch, a 45-7 winner Christchurch, 45-7 winner at home against Carolina. Went dyslexic there for a second.
Okay, it happens.
Pendleton, 57-7 winners at West Oak. Belton Honeypath, a 48-21 win over Crescent. Walhalla, 49-7 winners over Berea. Blue Ridge defeats Travelers Rest, 41-20. Greer, 21-13 winners over Seneca. Daniel, a 59-7 win at Pickens. Wren, 55-3 over Lawrence. Westside, 49-18 over Fountain Inn. Emerald, a 51-12 win at Southside. In 5A Region 2, Dorman defeated Wade Hampton 58-0.
I do have some stats on that one before you continue.
Yeah.
It was a very balanced night for Dorman. 142 yards on the ground, 128 yards through the air in that big win for Dorman over Wade Hampton. Alex, Bryce O'Neill got to start last night for the Cavaliers. Had a very good night.
Yeah.
100% completion rating. Not
Wow.
bad. 8 of 8.
Is that good?
It's pretty good.
Okay.
8 of 8 for Bryce O'Neill, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. And on top of that, he was also Dorman's leading rusher last night. Bryce O'Neill, 8 carries, 86 yards, and 2 more touchdowns on the ground. Your quarterback averaging 10 yards per carry on the ground is pretty good. You're going to get a first down every time the quarterback runs if you're playing Wade Hampton.
Is that good?
It's very, very good.
Oh, okay.
A big night, a very big night for Dorman and a big night for Bryce O'Neill. We talked about it earlier in hour number one. they needed that one, not just for the win, but for confidence, after that Spartanburg loss. So a big win for them. You can continue. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Gaffney, 28-21 winner at Riverside. Burns, 28-9 against Eastside, a winner over the Eagles. Spartanburg, 27-7 winners over Boiling Springs. And then 5A Region 1, we just heard from Hillcrest head coach Bennett Swigert. They all played on Thursday night, getting ready to play again this Tuesday. Greenwood defeated Woodmont 49-27. TL Hanna 42-20 winners over JL Man. Malden 28-17 over Greenville. And Hillcrest 28-3 over Easley.
Big night in high school football last night. Still a lot of games to get into. I want to touch on MVP Woodruff. That was one of the better games of the night. Alex, you and I, who'd you pick in that one?
Woodruff. We both picked Woodruff.
Yeah, MVP was very good. I just thought that Woodruff would be able to outscore and move the ball on MVP last night. MVP gets the win. Credit to those guys. A huge win for MVP. Let's go to the phones. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. Daredevil wants to chime in. What's up, Daredevil?
How about them Greer Yellow Jackets? See, Greer did the opposite of Landrum, and I think it paid off. Whereas Landrum started out with it was their schedule, but it was easier teams, less competition. I'm going to say, I don't put it the right way, but Greer played the real big boys, and now look what Greer's getting it done.
Greer, listen, Daredevil, a win last night over an undefeated Seneca football team. They were 6-0. That's Seneca's first loss of the season.
Yes, sir. I think Greer just made second place in the region because you seen what Daniel done. I think it was 59-7.
59-7.
I think Seneca, who Greer's got to go to
over Pickens
on Tuesday. Pickens. I'm sorry, I got them backward. Pickens. So I think Greer can get second place and. I tell you, I think that 5A, man, I don't know what to think after what Spartanburg did to the Bowling Springs. I didn't see that coming.
I know. I didn't either. I did not either.
And then Riverside and Gaffney being that close. It's getting interesting, guys. It's getting interesting.
It's going to be fun down the stretch, Daredevil, for sure. Did you say Greer on Tuesday? Did I hear you say that?
Yes, for this. I believe they got to go to Pickens. Because they just beat Seneca, right? They got to go to Pickens. Right. I think that's right. Get Alex to check it. He's got the schedule there.
So
I'm trying to update everybody.
and I'm assuming they took the same approach as Region 1 5A Daredevil with, trying to get all the games in.
Yes, sir. I noticed Greenville County's doing that. Spartanburg's not, but they're just. Each team's doing it their own way to get the job. And I'm glad the kids are getting to play. Sure. All right, guys, y'all have a good weekend.
Thanks, man. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. So, to Daredevil's point, a quick turnaround for Greer as well. A lot of teams, Alex, will have a quick turnaround this week. Playing on Tuesday. So, we will have what? A handful of games on Tuesday night? Is that right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Games?
I sat down this week and I got through, I think, 5A.
Yeah, and Greenville County, it must be 3A and 4A as well that are doing that, to Daredevil's point. So, might have a good little slate of games on Tuesday.
Might have to pick one to go to.
I'm telling you, Greer. If it's at home, obviously I can. I get off here at 7. I could make Greer pretty quickly in 15, 20 minutes. Might make it my kickoff, but you'll have
at Pickens.
Is it? Never mind. You'll have to compile a schedule for Tuesday night's game, and we'll have to do a Saturday morning or a Wednesday morning scramble. No, I'm kidding.
Knock Rob and Lonzo off. They can do 6 to 8. We'll do 8 to 10.
So we'll have games on Tuesday. We'll have games on Friday.
Yeah,
and
probably games on Thursday for all we know. Somebody might do it.
So, but for sure on Saturday. So for sure we'll have games Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday for next week. Wow, 3 different games or 3 different days rather of games. That's.
So when we do our picks next week,
you got to have them in by Tuesday.
Got to have them in by like 5 o'clock Tuesday.
I'll do them the day. You can do them the day too. That way, you and I both do them the day.
Yeah, well, we got to figure out what games are being played.
That's true.
Maybe do it tomorrow.
Maybe tonight. All right, MVP Woodruff. That was a very close game. Did that game, you have this score 40-38. That game ended up being a 2-point game. I was updated throughout the game, but I'll tell you what, man, Mountain View just kept throwing punches and Woodruff kept responding, but just 2-point shot. I mean, that might be one of the best games of the night. Again, I picked Woodruff. You did as well. I thought Woodruff would be able to hold Mountain View down a little bit defensively. Obviously, they were not, but a huge win, Alex, for Mountain View Prep and those guys against Woodruff. And that game was played in Newberry last night at Newberry College. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess it was at Newberry College. That's what.
What do you mean? You guess?
Well, I know it was in Newberry. My assumption is that it was at Newberry College and not Newberry High School.
Yeah, it was Newberry College.
Newberry High School actually has a bigger stadium than Newberry College. So if they were going for size, yeah, it was in Newberry. I know that much.
In Newberry last night. So a big night for Mountain View Prep. Now they put themselves, Alex, in the driver's seat for that region. Who else? Do you have Mountain View's remaining schedule? It's going to be tough for anybody else to catch them now with that win over Woodruff.
Yeah, if they are sticking with their schedule and not, well, actually, yeah. So it seems like they are playing Broome next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look, but they played Chapman last week, right?
That's right.
They played Woodruff last night.
Yep.
And then the only game that they missed because they had a bye the day that Hurricane Helene came through, the only game they missed was at Union. So if they make that up, which I would assume they would at this point,
that extra week,
they actually built in 2 byes into their schedule. So they had the September 27th bye, but then they also had a built-in week 10 bye on their schedule. So technically they only have 1 game remaining on their original regular season schedule. I've got to go back and figure out what they're doing with that Union game. I would assume that they'd make it up on that November 8th.
The schedules as a whole are going to be just wacky until the playoffs start because of the hurricane. And for an example of that, Alex, on not this week, next week, on Thursday night, which is Halloween, October the 31st, the next night, November the 1st, which was supposed to be the last regular season week, right? Chapman and Broome. Yeah, I believe it's Chapman Broome, who were supposed to play on the 1st of November, are now playing on the 31st, which is Halloween night at Spartanburg High School. So Chapman Broome, Halloween at Spartanburg High School. There's, again, from last night and last week all the way up until the end of the season, just consider these schedules to be wacky the rest of the way out because they certainly will be wacky. So a big win for Mountain View Prep. A game you were at last night, Alex. We'll get into that real quick again. Gaffney sneaks one out over Riverside over at the reservation in Greer, not the reservation in Gaffney, but at Riverside. 28-21 win for the Indians over the Warriors. Alex, did that game, as close as it was, surprise you? Did you think that one was going to be that close?
I didn't think it'd be that close. I thought Gaffney probably win by maybe 2 scores. I think my prediction going into it was maybe like a 17-point win for Gaffney, something like that. I didn't think it would be like the 56-0 like we've seen Gaffney beat Riverside in the past. Yeah. I knew that Riverside was a much improved team from what they have been in past years. Matthew Rochester, really good coach.
He is
the Skinner kid for Riverside, really good football
player. And the quarterback, Gideon, is not bad.
Yeah.
They're really good, man.
So they Riverside looked like a really good football team last night. Gaffney came out, played a little bit flat, did not play very well, did not play good football last night at all. And so, I think the Gaffney coaching staff, and you and I have talked about this off air, Cole, a little bit, but I think the Gaffney coaching staff has tough decisions to make. In terms of,
I don't think it's tough.
Personnel. Well,
others might think it's tough.
Others might think it's tough, but I think the Gaffney coaching staff have decisions to make when it comes to personnel for games the rest of the season, and so that's going to be interesting to see.
He's just such a good athlete.
Yeah,
and Javon last night obviously didn't have a good game. What were his stats? You have those?
Javon was. Let's see. He was
talking about Gaffney's quarterback who's committed to Arkansas.
He was 1 completion for 7 yards, 2 interceptions, 1 completion on 7 attempts, 2 interceptions, -1 yard
Wow.
on that 1 completion.
Not what you expect from Gaffney's quarterback.
No.
I don't know if you went back in the history book 20, 30, 40 years, if you'd ever find a Gaffney game, Alex, that had that little of passing numbers, but regardless, it's like I told somebody last night, Jamarcus Smith, once again, how many times have I said that this year, Alex? Jamarcus Smith with a huge play, what, a 50-plus yard run or 40?
54 yards,
54-yard touchdown run. Andrew Roop had a goal line touchdown as well. But how many times have we said this season for Gaffney, the savior for the Gaffney Indians once again is Jamarcus Smith?
Well, Gaffney's had 3 overtime games, and then last night, so 4
times
of their
Jamarcus
6
is-
wins.
Yeah.
The 2 wins that they have that did not go to overtime were 54-14 and 31-0. So
Kid's special, man. Kid's special.
yeah.
I mean, he really is. He's such a good kid, and he's special.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best players in the area, just literally carrying his team offensively on his back when he has to. Joe on the Facebook stream says, how about Malden, the 2 in a row? Who would have thunk? You're right, Joe. We talked about that in hour number 1. 2 in a row for Malden. That hadn't happened in a while. They hadn't won a game in a while. So good for them. Texter says Greer had 2 goal line stands, and that was clutch. Appreciate that. Texter from the 443. You can text the show 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Again, 71307, keyword fan. Burns last night does get the win over Eastside. It was not pretty, but the Rebels get the win 28-9, and Dorman with a big win in that region as well, 58-0 over Wade Hampton. Also in Region 2 5A, Boiling Springs falls 27-7 over Spartanburg. Real quick before we run to a break, I think that one was one of the biggest surprises of the night, Alex, in terms of just the way Spartanburg manhandled Boiling Springs last night.
Yeah, and you and I both picked Boiling Springs in that game as well. And I said it last night on the on the Scramble preview.
Yeah.
I thought that Boiling Springs was the better team going into that game, and they proved me wrong. And Spartanburg definitely.
Well, I think
proved me
Spartanburg
wrong.
just proving us wrong. And look, like I said, now we're number 1. Spartanburg, flexing their muscles defensively. I mean, it's a well-coached team. Obviously, Mark Hodge does a fantastic job, and credit to him and his staff. We'll take a break. Come back. We'll talk Chesney football with the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles, Brett Chappell, next.
and Diesel.
Just hit rewind with the Odyssey app on the Fan Upstate. This is
I want to say thanks to Ingalls as well as Founders Federal Credit Union as well as Lumos Internet, a fairly new sponsor of the Saturday Morning Scramble. Lumos Internet, built for the future, for bringing you the Saturday Morning Scramble each and every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on the Fan Upstate. We're talking high school football this morning, week 8 in the books. We bring in the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles, Brett Chappell. Coach, week 8 already in the books. High school football season just flies by way too fast, doesn't it, Coach?
I'm telling you, already in the middle of October. What a great atmosphere we had last night. Had homecoming last night. Feel really fortunate that we're able to play some games. There's still a lot of teams in the area in Western North Carolina, especially where I'm from, that still hadn't had their first game since Helene came through. So, just great to be out there. Great crowd last night. Just a really good ball game between two pretty evenly matched teams. Just a good atmosphere, good game last night.
Chesney gets the 22-16 win last night over Liberty. You heard it from Coach Chappell. It was homecoming for the Eagles. When you talked about this week's preparation for Liberty, pretty close game last night. What was the difference for the Chesney Eagles to get the win last night?
We knew that it was, when we looked at them on film, there were just a lot of similarities in the type of kids, what we looked like, what we were doing offensively, very similar on that side as well. And, when you have games like that, it's going to come down to some of the small things, a little mistake here, a little mistake there. And I think we were able to capitalize on a couple of things that helped us late. And, to win it right there at the end, had a long drive. Our last offensive possession, scored, went for 2 and got it. They had the ball, drove down and got down about the 30, and it was just nice to be able to see our defense make another stop. But that was one of the biggest things for us last night. Our defense played really well. Had some really key fourth down stops there in the second half, down on our side of the 50, and just one of those things where we had a few more things go our way than they did.
Coach, you mentioned the scoring drive. Was that in the fourth, I believe you said, for Chesney? Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys now have had several or a couple of games this year at least where in the fourth quarter it took late scoring. I remember one game was even closer than that for the Chesney Eagles in order to get the win. What kind of confidence does this offense have that when they need a score late in the game, they can go get it?
The thing about our kids, that I've learned, and I'm still learning from these guys, first time being with them and, getting a chance to coach these guys, they don't get caught up in the scoreboard. That's one thing that doesn't seem like our kids look at. They just go out there with a business type approach and, don't get in a big hurry and don't get really nervous in situations. And, that comes back to your senior leadership as well. But, these kids just get out there and play hard. And, we've played some really tough opponents in our non-region schedule. And I certainly think that it's helped prepare us for the game last night.
Coach, you mentioned, and by the way, we're talking to Brett Chappell, the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles. Coach, you mentioned the tough schedule, that you guys lost a few early in the season. What do you feel like that tough schedule taught your team?
The big thing for us is that they taught us a lot of adversity early on. Even those games that we had that were some of those tough games, we were in a lot of those games, especially all the way up into the third quarter, some going into the fourth quarter. I go back to the Woodruff game. We even took the lead there at one point going into the fourth quarter. So kids have just been in these tight games. I really emphasized to them last night before we went out, we need to learn to finish, be able to learn to finish these tough games. And we told them all week that it was going to come down to those little things. And certainly it did. And being able to finish was a big thing for us as we were going through the week in practice. Some drills we did trying to help our kids go over that, get over that hump. And, like I said, just a great job by our kids last night. I thought our coaches made some good adjustments at halftime, helped our kids back, especially defensively. I'm just really proud of the way we played defensively last night. And that's a good football team, no doubt about it, in Liberty. And, we knew that coming in. So just a great win for us.
Chesney gets the 22-16 win over Liberty. We're talking to Brett Chappell, the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles. Coach, we talked to a lot of coaches, first year, second year, 20th, 30th year here in high school football and on the Saturday morning scramble. What do you feel like in the first year at your tenure at Chesney, what do you feel like you've learned maybe that you didn't expect through these first 8 weeks?
It's funny that you mentioned that. When I came down here, one of the things that I saw coming in was how high scoring offenses were. And man, just so many points going up on the board. And, I came from a place where we really relied on defense, for where the area we were at, that was what we really relied on. And we had maybe some lower scoring games, but just had really stout defenses. And, that's still one thing that we're trying to, instill here. But it was surprising to me when I first got here. It was almost like defense somewhat was kind of an afterthought. We were just, we're going to outscore people. And, not that you can't do that. And certainly, a lot of people have success doing that. But, we've just kind of really stuck to that and, really preached, maybe not so high scoring games all the time, but just really solid defense, great games. You go back and look at our schedule. We've been in some really tight games all the way up into, sometimes the fourth quarter. And, our kids are starting to believe in what we're doing, and, that's a good thing.
Coach, I find it interesting that you brought that up about, low-scoring games, and obviously you came from North Carolina. Is it just and for those of us that don't know that have only been around South Carolina, is it more of like an old school football approach traditionally in North Carolina for a lot of the small schools that you've been around and been a part of? I know obviously, back in the day it was more about 15 yards and what's right in front of you. Now you have to kind of defend the whole field. Is it more of an old school approach in North Carolina, or am I off on that?
No, I think you're right in that. And I think it's just in pockets, just in areas.
Right.
I think it has a lot to do with the type of kids you have, what you're able to find success with, how, I don't know, what kind of fits that system, where you're at as far as, again, what kind of kids you have. So I've had to learn that as well, and I've had to make some adjustments, and, we've had some do some things differently offensively, talking about those guys, last night for us, and we've done this all year. If you look at stats for us, we're averaging over 300 yards of offense a game. But here's the thing that, some people may not realize. We had 9 different kids touch the ball last night.
Wow.
Whether it's a pass reception or whether it was a carry. For us, we have a lot of kids that do some really good things for us, but we're able to get the ball in different kids' hands. So usually when you hear those low-scoring games, you're like, well, man, he must have one dominant kid that's getting 30 carries or something like that. But that's not the case for us. We got a lot of kids that are unselfish, do some good things, and we're able to keep defenses off balance because you really can't key on one particular player.
We're talking to Brett Chappell, the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles. Coach, one more big picture question before we get back to last night. You mentioned coming from North Carolina to South Carolina, first year at Chesney as the head coach. I find it very intriguing. At the college level and the pro level, there's a lot of coaches who have their MO, their style of football that regardless of where they go, they're going to implement that. But is it, when you talk about high school football, do you find it almost complete opposite of that philosophy where you are really putting yourself behind the 8 ball if you do take that approach? Whereas in my opinion, you kind of have to fit your scheme and what you do around the players that you do have.
I think, the thing for us and me in particular, because this will be the 3rd high school I've been the head coach at, and each school that I've been to has different type kids, with what's there. And it's just kind of like what you mentioned. I think you've got to be able to have a base that you work from. And for what we do, and I can probably speak on both sides of the ball, for what we do offensively, I'll start there. We have a base of what we like to do. But we're also able to adjust if we need to be heavier on one side, for instance, pass. If we need to be heavier on pass because that's the personnel we have, or if we need to lean more on the run, we can. But it doesn't change what we do up front. And that's the one key that I will say for us through the years. We've never had to change a whole lot for what those offensive linemen do. And that's been really critical in the successes that we've had. Defensively, kind of the same thing. You want to have that base, but you've got different skill sets. And that's every year. Like our JVs, we're a little bit more heavy on one side of the ball with what we do than maybe what the varsity is. but you still got that base that you're teaching. That way, when those kids come up, they still understand it. We may just do a little bit more of one thing than we do than the other, than going from year to year or from JVs to varsity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Coach. Looking at your schedule, you have Crescent and Landrum remaining. Is that correct, or did you guys have to make any adjustments because of the hurricane?
We got one more adjustment made. So we lost the Blacksburg game early on, which was a non-region game with Hurricane Helene. So we were able to pick that up in the extra week that South Carolina, the high school league, gave us. So we still have one home game left. It'll be our senior night, and that will be on November the 8th. So we've got 3 games left. We go Crescent, non-region, Landrum, go to them, region, and then we come back for Blacksburg for senior night.
Good thing that you're, Coach, that you're being able to get that Blacksburg game in for sure. I know it's early on a Saturday morning. You probably haven't had a time to watch film yet. What do you know about this Crescent football team? A good team.
Very good team and a lot of success through the past few years. Again, I come back to a lot of things that I've seen when I watch film. Man, everybody's got dudes. Everybody's got some kids that can get out there and go. And, you got to be able to defend the whole field. You mentioned it, I came from an area before, my last stop, that you didn't necessarily have to defend the whole field. You were, defending a portion of it. That's not the case here. Everybody's able to stretch that field and get out there and go. And Crescent's no different. Obviously a little bit bigger school than us, but, excited about that matchup. Hadn't had a chance to meet coach from down there yet, but we'll get that opportunity on Thursday when we play with the JVs, and we'll travel down there on Friday night with our varsity.
Coach, best of luck to you. We appreciate your time this morning, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cole.
Thank you so much. That's Brett Chappell, the head football coach of the Chesney Eagles. Alex, it's big for them to be able to get that game against Blacksburg back in the schedule. We talked about it earlier. That was the one, and Coach Chappell just said that was the one that's axed. And that would be, if that game were not to be made up, their home games would be done. However, as you just heard him say, they'll get Blacksburg on the 8th of November at home.
Yeah, and that's huge for Chesney to be able to get that. I mean, it's huge for any school to be able to.
That's right.
To pick up that extra game, not extra game, but to be able to make that game up.
Yeah.
And I was while you were on that interview, Cole, I was sitting here kind of reading up on Coach Chappell because he's from North Carolina.
Sure.
A lot of people probably don't know a lot about Coach Chappell. He spent 20 years. This is his 20th year coaching high school football. He mentioned this is his third school. He's averaging like 8.5 wins a year at his previous 2 stops. So, he was named the 2023 North Carolina High School Athletic Association Most Outstanding Coach of the Year.
It's a good hire. That's a really good hire for Chesney.
Good hire for Chesney. He's going to get things going the right direction for Chesney. He got hired late in the coaching carousel this year.
March.
Yeah, March or April, something like that. So it's definitely going to be, it's an uphill battle anytime a new coach comes in, but Coach Chappell seems like a really good guy. That was the first time I've ever, it's the first time we've had him on the show, and first time that I've heard him.
Yeah, we had him on wire to
team, so.
We had him on wire to wire as soon as he was hired back in March or April on our afternoon show. And you're right, a fantastic hire.
Yeah.
They'll continue to get a lot better. So a big win for Chesney as they have Crescent coming up on Friday at Crescent. The next 2 are on the road. Again, also last night, we touched on the scores, but Clinton Landrum 56-16 last night. Abbeville all over Whitmire 59-9. Mountain View Prep 40-38 over Woodruff, highlighting a few that we haven't got into. It was a big night. I know Daredevil mentioned it earlier, Alex, but a big night for Greer over Seneca. It seems like Greer, ever since that Burns win, has just figured things out. 21-13 win over a 6-0 undefeated Seneca football team. I don't believe Greer's lost since the Burns game. Have they?
They've not. No. They had the 2 games they missed were Travelers Rest and Pickens. And I know Daredevil mentioned that they are playing Pickens this Tuesday
night
I think
football
is what he said. And I would imagine they're probably picking up.
And that's a winnable game for Greer.
Yeah. And I'd imagine they're picking up the Travelers Rest game at the end of the season. So, but no, they've not lost a game since they beat Burns. They beat Burns 18-10. They beat Berea 63-0. And then Blue Ridge and Seneca the last 2 weeks, 49-21 and 21-13 respectively.
Kudos to Greer, man.
Yeah.
They've had a good run.
Playing good football.
They really are. They're playing good. A big win last night, Alex. Any surprise on the West Side Fountain Inn score, 49-18? Not really close.
No, I don't think there was a surprise there. Fountain End's a good team. They're
Best team in the region. Excuse me, West Side best team in the region.
West Side's best team in the region.
It's
Yeah,
tough one for
Fountain End's a good team. They ran into a buzzsaw on West Side last night, though. I mean, West Side's a really, really good team. We know what Brian Lane is able to do at West Side. I mean, heck, we saw it a year ago.
Oh, they're good. They're
what
good,
he's able
man.
to do. So, yeah, I mean, no surprise there in that win for West Side.
Let's see here. Before we run to a break and turn the page on week 8 and start looking ahead to week 9, any games that we didn't touch on? Oh, a big win for St. Joe's last night, 14-7, Alex over Southside Christian. St. Joe's in the win column last night. I figured that game would be pretty close, low scoring. You and I saw St. Joe's back in the preseason, is that right?
Yeah.
So a big win for them over Southside Christian. Southside Christian, did I get that? What did we pick on that one?
We both picked St. Joe's on that. That was actually a Thursday night game.
Was that Thursday?
Yeah, that was Thursday, and that was one of the 2 that you got right that were played.
One of the 2. 2 out of 5. Good God. And then Christchurch was a big win last night, 45-7 over Carolina. Christchurch in the win column again. Was that also Thursday?
That was last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Christchurch on Friday night. Pendleton 57-7 over West Oak. We did mention BHP all over Crescent, 48-21. Wahala 49-7 over Berea. Travelers Rest Blue Ridge, no surprise here, 41-20. Blue Ridge over TR. TR struggling this season. Chris Goodman, a very good coach over at TR. You and I have talked to him several times, but no surprise really. Did you pick Blue Ridge as well?
Yeah, I picked Blue Ridge. Yeah.
And then Wren, what a big night. The week 7 player of the week was Wren High School's Reese Price, who we had on Wire to Wire earlier in the week. Wren, another big night, 55-3 over Lawrence last night. What a big win for Coach Anthony Freight over at Wren and the Hurricanes. That's a big win. So a lot of good games last night. Appreciate Bennett Swaggart of Hillcrest and Brett Chappell of Chesney for making time to join us this morning, talk a little high school football as we run to a break. One more segment remaining on the show. We look ahead to what is week 9 and what is going to be a wacky week 9. Games on Tuesday, games on Friday, and games on Saturday right here in the Upstate. Final segment of the Saturday morning scramble and final chance for you to get your thoughts in. If you want to chime in a game you were at last night, I want to talk about a game coming up in week number 9. You can do so, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Phone lines also open for a few more minutes, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. If you have missed any of the Saturday morning scramble and want to go back and catch it, you can do so for free. Download the free Odyssey app, AUDACY, and use the rewind feature. That's how you can go back and listen to the Saturday morning scramble. If you follow us on Twitter at FanScramble, we'll also post the links to hour number 1 and hour number 2 for you to go back and listen to if you missed any of the show. A very wacky schedule, Alex, coming up the rest of not just this week, but the rest of the regular season. This was supposed to be the next to last week for most teams.
Yeah. This is week 9.
Week 9
of what's supposed to be 10.
And now there are 11 weeks of the regular season. So we have added week 11. The high school league added that because of the hurricane. The state championships pushed back and the playoffs pushed back a week, Alex. So instead of the playoffs starting on the 8th, that's still regular season.
Yeah.
So you'll have 25th of October. That's regular season. The 1st and the 8th of November, also regular season. And then the playoffs start on the 15th for most teams.
Right.
Who obviously are going to get in the playoffs. Region 2 5A, we talked about a good bit today. Looking at that, Alex, next week, week 9. God, I can't believe it's already week 9. It's absolutely horrific that high school football season goes by as fast as it does. Bowling Springs Spartanburg was a big game last night. Spartanburg hosting Burns on Friday night.
Yep.
Burns offensively this season is just historically not the same team they normally are offensively, really struggling on that side of the football this year. Only 2 offensive touchdowns last night against Eastside. Just looking at that game, as well as Spartanburg's defense played last night, Alex, and the way their offense was able to move the ball as well, early lean on Spartanburg Burns on Friday night.
Yeah, I think, I got to lean Spartanburg on this. I think Spartanburg proved last night against Boiling Springs that they, you mentioned it, they showed their muscles. And so I think Spartanburg really proved last night. Burns is just, I've only seen them once, and it's difficult to kind of put into words what I saw, but offensively, Burns just could not move the ball. And it seems to be that way all season, just listening, tuning in to like third and fourth quarters of games with you and Lane. But I think Spartanburg really proved last night that they are here to try to make a statement in that region.
No doubt. And obviously Spartanburg and Gaffney still have a few weeks or a couple of games rather before they play each other. But all signs now pointing to that Spartanburg-Gaffney game, being very important when it comes to the region because Spartanburg only 1 loss this season. Gaffney, no losses as of yet. Seems like that one will be a really good one. Gaffney, this Friday night, Alex, what's in store for the Indians?
Gaffney's home against Dorman.
Dorman Gaffney. How about that? When we talked about Dorman, against Wade Hampton and Dorman with a tough loss the week before, last week, if you will, against Spartanburg, and just how important. And look, we all know Wade Hampton's not good, and a lot of teams are going to kill Wade Hampton. But I think Wade Hampton does serve as a confidence booster for Dorman. Is they go into that game against the best defense they'll see all season, the best defense they have seen in Gaffney, a team that brings a lot of pressure, and it's going to make life tough on that Dorman offense. Early lean, Gaffney, Dorman. I'll tell you, by the way, I agree with you on Spartanburg Burns. It seems as if right now Spartanburg is one of the teams to beat in 5A. But, when you look at Gaffney, Dorman, Gaffney's defense has been the consistent part of this football team. Their offense was not good last night. Their offense has been a little inconsistent for the Indians. Jamarcus Smith has carried the offense, literally carried the team in terms of being able to win the football game, and has been absolutely fantastic this season, Alex. But when you look at Gaffney Dorman, Dorman's going to have to find a way to move the football. And against that Gaffney defense, that's easier said than done. It's going to be really intriguing to watch to see if they're able to consistently move the football against the best defense I've seen this year.
Yeah, and Gaffney, I mean Gaffney's going to stack the box. I mean, they are going to come after the football. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that you don't get yardage defensively, Gaffney. And I mean, it's going to be interesting for Dorman trying to, really the same situation that Burns was kind of in last week. It's going to be interesting for Dorman now trying to prep for who are they going to see at quarterback the majority of the game. Will Javon Gilmore, who we saw really struggle mightily against Riverside last night, will Javon Gilmore play the majority of the snaps, or will Jamarcus Smith get the majority of the snaps? What's going to happen?
I think you'll see both.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. I think for Gaffney, I think you got Jamarcus Smith has to touch the ball if you want to win games, if you're Gaffney.
He's just too good not to.
Yeah.
Too good not to. So, and then let's see, who are we missing in that region? Boiling Springs.
They've got Riverside.
Oh, man, that's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like, it's the Riverside of old where you just automatically chalk it up as a win. You saw Riverside last night. What Gideon Marabim and their wide receiver and Skidder and that offense can do. You said a tough Riverside team. Riverside Boiling Springs, you would assume that Boiling Springs has the advantage, but then again, with the injuries and how they looked last night, you kind of just wonder, man, could this game be closer than we thought?
Right. And I'll say Riverside, they looked very disciplined last night as well.
Yeah.
They
well coached.
They're very well coached. We've talked about Matthew Rochester numerous times on this program, but Riverside looked very disciplined last night. They did not commit a lot of penalties. I think they had 6 penalties total last night, which,
not bad.
I mean, everybody says what they want to say about high school league officiating, but I think last night may have been the fewest penalties by both teams that I've seen in a high school football game in a while. I think Gaffney had 7 and Riverside had 6. So normally, I come in the next morning and we're talking about like 15 and 12 or something.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Riverside's very, very well coached by Matthew Rochester, very disciplined. They looked really good last night against Gaffney. And, I think Boiling Springs, how do you get back up after a tough loss to Spartanburg?
How do you respond? Yeah, I agree with that. You got kind of punched in the mouth last night, tossed around, and how do you respond if you're Boiling Springs? I do agree. It's going to show if Boiling Springs is resilient, right? We know they're talented. We know they have good football players, but we're going to find out this week if Boiling Springs is resilient or not, going against a good Riverside team. And that Riverside team, felt like they were right there with Gaffney. Also, Boiling Springs was right there with Gaffney. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Week 8 of high school football in the books, just like that. Week 9 is here. We'll have high school football on Tuesday, on Friday, and Saturday. Thanks, Hurricane Helene. And we'll be right here next Saturday morning in the Ingalls Market Studios before we hit the road in November, back live at Ingalls. High school football coverage, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on the Saturday Morning Scramble, brought to you by Lumos Internet, Founders Federal Credit Union, and your local Ingalls.